Welcome to Section 2, Algebraic Expressions. So we'll start off by looking at what is algebra. Well, that is a part of mathematics that uses symbols like X or N, typically letters of the alphabet, but it could be any symbol at all, to represent an unknown quantity. And these symbols are known as variables, meaning they change. So let's have a look at this example. Saeed earns $15 for each soccer game that he referees. Now, because the number of games that he referees each week may change, then we can use a variable like G to represent the number of the games that he refs each week. Now, typically, the variable that you use will be descriptive and relate to the word problem that you're working on, so G for games. Now, if I want a way to represent how much money he's going to make, I can write that as 15G, and where 15G is called an algebraic expression. So now let's talk about 15G for a moment. 15G actually means 15 times G, 15 multiplied by G. So if it's multiplication, how come there's no multiplication symbol there? Well, we often don't write 15xg because x is a variable. So in algebra it can be confused with the multiplication symbol. So we just write the number and the variable together to represent multiplication. Now there are a couple other ways you may see multiplication written, and that is using a dot. 15.g means 15 times g, or brackets. So if you had two sets of brackets next to each other, that means multiplication. Now we're going to learn some more terms. In the expression 15g, we know that the g is called the variable, but what about the 15? Well, that is called the numerical coefficient, or simply just coefficient. That is always the number that's written before the variable. So let's practice that now. For this example, we have to determine the variable and the coefficient for each expression. So in A, we have 2w, meaning 2 times w. So the variable is the letter w, and the coefficient is the number before the variable, which is 2. In B, the variable is x, the coefficient is 5. In C, the variable is n, but what is the coefficient here? There's no number written in front of the variable. Well, there's actually a 1 there, but we don't always write it in, because 1 times n is simply going to be n. So we don't write the 1 there, but you're supposed to know now that in front of a variable, that there's no number there, there's always a hidden 1. Now for D, the variable is t, and the coefficient here is a fraction. So the coefficient always don't need to be a whole number. It could also be a decimal as well even. Now I got another definition here. This says, in the expression 15g plus 2, we know that g is the variable, 15 is the numerical coefficient, but what is the 2 called? Well, that is called the constant, meaning it doesn't change. So it doesn't have a variable attached to it. It's just a number all on its own. So in this example, we have to state the variable, coefficient, and also the constant. So in A, the variable is x, the coefficient is 3, and the constant is 9, the number all by itself. Now in B, the variable is c, the coefficient is 4, and you may see that the constant is 1. But when there's a minus in front of it, that has to go with it as well. So the constant is minus 1. Now in C, the variable is h, the coefficient is 6, and there is no constant there. There is no number there by itself, so you write that as 0. Now in D, you'll notice that the variable is at the end now, which is d. The coefficient is not 8. A lot of times it is the very first number that you see in the expression, but always look for the coefficient as the number that's directly in front of the variable. In this case, it is 10. And 8 would be the constant. And then one last example. We have to identify each part of the algebraic expression. What is 7 called in 7x plus 12? That is called the numerical coefficient, or just coefficient. X is the variable, and 12 is the constant. Now for b, we have n plus 3m. N is the variable, 3 is the coefficient, and m is a variable as well. So it is possible to have multiple variables, multiple coefficients, even multiple constants in an expression. So now that you have learned some new algebraic terms, you can move on to the next video in this lesson.